Most people think Japan has always been a group of islands sitting off the coast of Asia, but if you went back 20 million years, you wouldn't find them on a map. Back then, the land we now call Japan was actually physically stuck to the side of the Asian mainland, glued right onto what we now know as Russia and the Korean Peninsula. It's hard to imagine, right? Today, Japan is a famous archipelago made of thousands of islands, but its journey to get there is one of the most violent and dramatic stories in the history of our planet. We are talking about massive tectonic plates playing a game of tug-of-war, giant volcanoes rising from the ocean floor, and land bridges that allowed ancient elephants to walk across places that are now hundreds of feet underwater. By the end of this, you'll see that Japan isn't just a country. It's a geological miracle that is still changing every single day. Let's start at the beginning, around 30 million years ago. If you were standing on the edge of the Asian continent back then, you could have walked straight into what is now Tokyo without ever getting your feet wet. There was no Sea of Japan. Instead, there was just a massive forest stretching across the coast. But deep underground, things were getting messy. Our Earth is made of these giant puzzle pieces called tectonic plates. Underneath Japan, 4 of these massive plates are constantly crashing into each other. You have the Pacific Plate, the Philippine Sea Plate, the Eurasian Plate, and the North American Plate. Around 25 million years ago, these plates started to pull and push in a way that began to tear the edge of Asia apart. Imagine a piece of pizza dough being pulled from both sides until the middle starts to stretch and thin out. That's exactly what happened to the land. As the land stretched, it started to sink. This created a giant dip, or a basin. Eventually, the Pacific Ocean started rushing into this giant crack, and that was the birth of the Sea of Japan. This process took millions of years. It wasn't a sudden snap. It was a slow, grinding separation. By about 15 million years ago, the main islands of Japan had mostly broken off and were starting to rotate like a pair of swinging doors. The top half of Japan swung one way, and the bottom half swung the other, eventually settling into that banana shape we see today. But here is the big challenge. When you have 4 giant plates all fighting for space in the same spot, the land doesn't just sit still. This created a massive problem for the geography of the region. Because the Pacific Plate is sliding underneath the other plates in a process called subduction, it creates an incredible amount of heat and pressure. This pressure has to go somewhere. The result? Volcanoes. Lots of them. This is why Japan is part of the Ring of Fire. The entire backbone of the Japanese islands was built by volcanic eruptions. If you look at a map of Japan today, you'll notice that about 70% of the land is covered in mountains. Most of those mountains exist because the Earth was being crumpled upward by the plates or built up by lava. This makes the geography very difficult for people to live on. There isn't much flat land, which is why millions of people are crowded into coastal cities like Osaka and Tokyo today. There is also a giant crack that runs right through the middle of the main island of Honshu. It's called the Fossa Magna. This is a massive geological rift where the 2 different parts of Japan were joined together after their big rotation. It's a place of huge mountains and deep valleys, and it's a constant reminder that the ground beneath Japan is never truly at rest. Now, things get even more interesting when we talk about the ice ages. Fast forward to about 2 million years ago, the Earth entered a cycle of getting very cold and then warming up again. During the coldest parts of the Ice Age, a lot of the world's water was frozen into massive glaciers. This caused the sea levels to drop significantly, sometimes by as much as 400 feet. When the sea level dropped, the Sea of Japan became almost like a giant lake. Land bridges appeared. One bridge connected the northern island of Hokkaido to Siberia in the north. Another bridge connected the southern tip of Japan to the Korean Peninsula. This changed everything for the life on the islands. Suddenly, Japan wasn't isolated anymore. Ancient animals started migrating across these land bridges. We have found fossils in Japan of Naumann's elephants, which were giant hairy creatures that look like mammoths. There were also giant deer with massive antlers, and tigers. Yes, tigers used to roam the Japanese islands. Early humans also used these bridges. The first people to arrive in Japan likely walked there following the animal herds. They didn't need boats, they just needed a good pair of walking legs. For thousands of years, Japan was a crossroads for life coming from all over Asia. The climax of this story happened about 10,000 years ago, at the end of the last ice age. The world started to warm up, the glaciers melted, and the sea levels rose once again. The land bridges were swallowed by the ocean, and the animals and people who were on the islands were suddenly cut off from the rest of the world. This isolation is what allowed Japan to develop such a unique environment. The elephants and tigers eventually went extinct because the islands weren't big enough to support them once they were trapped, but other species adapted. This is why Japan has animals like the Japanese macaque, the famous snow monkeys, that you can't find anywhere else. Even today, the geography isn't finished. Japan is still moving. Some parts of the islands are sinking a few millimeters a year, while other parts are being pushed higher into the sky. Volcanic eruptions still create brand new islands out of the blue. Just a few years ago, a new little island popped up near Nishinoshima because of an underwater volcano. Japan's history is a story of constant change. From being a flat piece of the Asian mainland to a mountainous chain of islands separated by deep seas, the land itself is a living thing. It was shaped by fire from volcanoes, carved by ice from the great glaciers, and moved by the invisible hands of tectonic plates. It's a reminder that the world we see today is just a snapshot in a much longer, much crazier movie.